Good afternoon, everyone. So today we are continuing our fourth class of session number 6 by Dr. Vidya CS on the topic neuroanatomy. So before the session is starting, I'll call Ms. Ritika Kapoor to deliver the prayer.
ॐ नमामि धन्वन्त्रि आदिदेवं सुरासुरे वन्दितं पादपादिनं लोके जरारुके भया मृत्युनाशं दधारिषं विविध औषधीना धन्वन्त्रि प्रमाणार्थं सर्वरोगे निवारितम् आयुर्वेद प्रभक्तारं वन्दे पीयूषं धायकम् सर्वे जना सुखिनो भवन्तु सर्वे सन्तु निरामया ॐ शान्तिः 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 ॐ
Thank you, Ms. Ritika. Ma'am, the platform is yours. You can continue.
Yes, Doctor. No, thank you. Students, very good afternoon. So, in today's session, I'll be teaching about the thalamus and ventricles of the brain. So, till now we have studied about the what is nervous system organization, then cerebrum and its parts as well as function areas. Then in the second session we studied about the brain stem. Then I covered about the in detail about the functional areas. So in today's session, we'll be blood supply brain we have studied along with the cerebellum. So now some of the important gray matter present in the cerebrum as well as ventricles of the brain. So coming to thalamus. So where is this thalamus? This is the part of diencephalon. So here is the thalamus. So mainly diencephalon consists of thalamus, hypothalamus and epithalamus. So what is the subcortical gray matter? They are thalamus, hypothalamus, then basal ganglia as well as limbic system. So the important ones I'll be telling you, the thalamus as well as hypothalamus. So in this section, this is called as coronal section. At the level of interventricular foramen, you can make out this thalamus here. This is the thalamus, and here the parts of the basal ganglia. And this is the internal capsule. So this internal capsule is nothing but white matter that you'll study in tomorrow's class. So again, this is a coronal section in depth. So you can make out this thalamus here. This is the thalamus. So this is a caudate nucleus, which having the head, body, and the tail. And the tail has got amygdaloid body. So this is a corpus callosum. This is nothing but white matter. And this is a thalamus. Below that you find the hypothalamus, which is the important important nuclei which gives all the stimulating hormones to the pituitary gland. So diencephalon is a part of the brain between the cerebrum and brainstem, and cavity within that is called as third ventricle. And hypothalamic sulcus divides the cerebellum into two parts called as pars dorsalis and pars ventralis. And pars dorsalis mainly it has got thalamus, metathalamus, and epithalamus. And pars ventralis consists of hypothalamus and subthalamus. So these are the divisions: epithalamus and thalamus, which has got two parts, right and left part. Hypothalamus is single with right and left half. So this interventricular foramen, so this is a hypothalamic sulcus, and this is the thalamus, and the two thalamus are connected with called as thalamic adhesion. Coming in detail to thalamus, so this is the location of thalamus here, just below the corpus callosum, and below that we find the hypothalamus. Because it is below, we call it as hypothalamus. So that's what I showed, the section of coronal section. So this is the cerebral hemisphere. At the level of interventricular foramen, you can make out this is the thalamus, this is the internal capsule, and this is the parts of caudate nucleus along with the globus pallidus. So thalamus has been divided to many nuclei by two lamina, what's called external medullary lamina and internal medullary lamina. This lamina divides the thalamus into lateral part, medial part, and anterior part. It's a Y-shaped. So the Y-shaped lamina divides into anterior part, lateral part, and medial part. So in these three parts, you find several nuclei in the thalamus. So this is the section of the thalamus with the nuclei. So what are the nuclei? In the anterior part we call as antithalamic nuclei, medial part we call as dorsal medial nuclei, the lateral part called as lateral dorsal nucleus, and ventral part you have again divided to ventromedial part and ventrolateral part. So this thalamus is like North Indian sweet, what do you call it, cham cham or champakali, where it is divided to three parts, but there it is not Y shaped, it is like a two parallel shape. So we have the medial part, then anterior part, lateral part. So these are the main nuclei present in the thalamus. So this is the anterior part, we call it anterior group of nuclei, and in the this is a medial part and this is a lateral part. So again it is divided to ventral anterior, ventral lateral, then ventral posterior lateral, ventral posterior medial. Then most posteriorly you find this geniculate body. It's called as medial geniculate body and lateral geniculate body, which is related to the visual and auditory system. Then in the you have the dorsal medial nucleus, then lateral dorsal nucleus, lateral posterior nucleus, then you have the pulminar nucleus. I don't think you have to remember all the nuclei, but you should remember that it has been divided to three groups, that is the ventral, medial, and lateral. In turn, all these have been divided to several groups of nuclei. So we have the midline nuclei, reticular nucleus, then medial geniculate body, as I told you. Medial geniculate body is related to auditory area, then lateral geniculate body is related to the visual system. So again, this is a colored image showing different nuclei and its functions. So anterior group is connected with the limbic system, medial group is connected to the frontal lobe of the cerebrum, then ventral group is connected to the cerebral nuclei as well as cerebellum. Then general sensory input. The central sensory input coming from the spinal cord. It is relayed in this area and then related to the cerebral cortex. Then lateral geniculate body to the visual and medial geniculate body to the auditory. So this is the connection. So these are the groups. So you should correlate with the physiology for each of these functions and the tracks. So again I repeat, anterior group to the limbic system, medial group to the frontal lobe of the cerebral cortex, then pulvinar to the association areas of cerebral cortex, then medial geniculate body to the auditory, lateral geniculate body to the visual, then the ventro-posterior group to the general sensory input, and ventro-medial group to the cerebellum and cerebral nuclei. So what is that circuit? So functions of antithalamic nuclei is closely associated with that of limbic system, and this is the circuit. First is the antenuclear thalamus, then to the cingulate gyrus, then to the hippocampal formation, then to the mammillary body. So this is the concern with the memory, with the emotional tone, and the memory is stored in this way. Then parietal lobe on this and cingulate gyrus, occipital and temporal lobe is connected to the dorsal tail of the nuclei, then to the thalamic nuclei, other thalamic nuclei. So this thalamus acts as a relay station for all the, maybe for the sensory or motor, it acts like a relay station. So ventral anterior nucleus, as I told you, connected to cerebral cortex, motor cortex, then to the substantia nigra present in the midbrain, then premotor cortex and other thalamic nuclei. So what is the function of ventral anterior nucleus? Probably influences the activities of motor cortex. The ventral lateral nucleus mainly connected to premotor cortex, and function probably influences the activities of motor cortex. Then connections of ventral posterior nucleus, that is, I told you it will be the sensory input to the area number 312 sensory cortex. Again, that whatever lemniscus we studied in the pons and medulla, that is a medial lemniscus, spinal lemniscus, trigeminal-spinal thalamic tract, all these convey to this ventro-posterior medial and ventro-posterior lateral nucleus of the thalamus. So this is the connection of intralaminar nuclei, where this intralaminar nuclei connects to the cerebral cortex, then to the midbrain, as well as to the reticular formation. So midline nuclei mainly helps to control the memory and arousal. Arousal is wakeness, consciousness. So these are the connection of reticular thalamic nucleus. So what are the afferents? The nucleus is thought to receive collateral branches of the corticothalamic, thalamocortical, and probably thalamostriatal fibers, efferent fibers from the reticular formation. The main function of this is the reticular nucleus belong to function in gating information related to the thalamus. So what is this thalamic syndrome? This is applied aspect of thalamus. So the thalamus is supplied by middle cerebral artery, and the middle cerebral artery, internal branch of internal carotid artery, it supplies all the parts of the nucleus of thalamus along with the basal ganglia. So thrombosis of this thalamogeniculate branch of middle cerebral artery causes thalamic syndrome. What are the features of it? Mainly sensory disturbances, because the 312, the sensory cortex may be hampered, loss of tactile and thermal sensation, then discriminated touch sensation is lost, then thalamic overreaction for pain, then sensory ataxia is seen. All these are features of thalamic syndrome. And one important aspect you should remember is thalamic phantom limb. Phantom limb is, though there is no sensation, if you prick it, it appears as if someone is pricking. It is called as thalamic phantom limb. In motor disturbances, there is a chorioathetosis with ataxia, result in the loss of appreciation of muscle and joint movement caused by thalamic lesion. Coming to the hypothalamus. So hypothalamus, it forms the floor and lateral wall of third ventricle. Mainly it controls three systems: autonomic nervous system, the endocrine system and limbic system. So limbic system is concerned with the emotion, memory, all these are controlled by limbic system. So these are the various nuclei of the hypothalamus. So this is the thalamus here and this is hypothalamus. It forms a floor of third ventricle and is separated from the thalamus above by the hypothalamic sulcus in the ventricle's lateral walls. So this is the mammillary bodies, tuberous cinerum, median eminence. So the important nuclei are preoptic, so prooptic, then tuberal and mammillary body. So these are the important nuclei of the hypothalamus. So in the anteposterior division, you find this preoptic nuclei. Then above this optic chiasma is supraoptic. Then here is the tuberal and this is a mammillary region. So again, the preoptic, you find different nuclei, anterior, supraoptic, all those things. That is not much important. You should remember the four group of nuclei in the hypothalamus: preoptic, supraoptic, then tuberal and mammillary region. So preoptic nuclei mainly concerned with the supraoptic nuclei mainly concerned with the circadian rhythm and release of ADH and oxytocin hormone to the posterior pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus are connected through what called as hypothalamo-portal venous system. Hypothalamo-portal venous system that transmit the hormones to this portal venous system. So tuberal region mainly concerned with the releasing factors, that is satiety and hunger. All these are function in the tuberal region. In mammillary region, you have got mammillary nucleus, mainly the behavior, then it is in the Papa circuit, as I told you, that is the memory, then temperature regulation in this region. So what is the afferent connection? Mainly to the optic, it is for the visual, then to the thalamo-hypothalamic tract, to this nuclei. Efferent is to the mammillary thalamic tract, to the thalamus and tegmental tract. Tegmentum is a part of midbrain. So summarizing the functions of main nuclei. So supraoptic nucleus releases a vasopressin, paraventricular nucleus oxytocin, preoptic and anterior nucleus are the parasympathetic in function, then posterior and lateral nucleus they are sympathetic, then anterior nucleus and posterior mainly temperature, heat and cold, then lateral nucleus hunger, medial nucleus to the satiety, and lateral nucleus along with that it can water intake, then suprachiasmatic nucleus for the circadian rhythm, that is a sleep-wake cycle. So these are the main functions of hypothalamus along with the releasing of stimulating hormones to the pituitary gland. It controls the parasympathetic, hormonal as well as temperature, then hunger, satiety, all these things. So thalamus acts as a relay station and intuitive station to all the sensory information except smell, because smell is controlled to the olfactory cortex. So hypothalamus lies anterior to and inferior to the thalamus, and it is center of integration of autonomic and endocrine function. So both the thalamus and hypothalamus makes the boundaries of third ventricle and play a role in memory and emotion. There are many nuclei and it's very hard to remember but not impossible. So whatever important to you I have covered. So this is about the thalamus and hypothalamus. So shall I proceed with the ventricles of brain? Dr. Anu?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So the ventricles, there were many queries yesterday, ventricles of brain. There are nothing but cavities present in the brain. So there are mainly four in number: two lateral ventricles in the cerebral cortex, third ventricle in the diencephalon, fourth ventricle in between the pons and cerebellum and the medulla. Then terminal ventricle is continuation of this before to the spinal cord, and cerebral aqueduct in the midbrain. So this is the pathway. So you have this lateral ventricle. Again, the lateral ventricle is a sheath-shaped structure. So through the interventricular foramen, it connects to the third ventricle. Then through the third ventricle, that's to the cerebral aqueduct of Sylvius, connects to the midbrain. From the midbrain, in the pons and the medulla, it's a continuation of fourth ventricle, then to the central canal of spinal cord. So this is a pathway of the CSF along with the connection of the ventricles. Coming to the important one, this lateral ventricle. As I told you, lateral ventricles is V-shaped on either side of the cerebral hemisphere. So it has got anterior horn, then central horn, then posterior horn and inferior horn. So this is the three horns of the lateral ventricle. So the inside this ventricle, you find the CSF, and there are four ventricles, two lateral ventricles in hemisphere, the third ventricle in the diencephalon, then fourth ventricle in between the pons, open medulla and the cerebellum. So the third and fourth ventricles are connected by cerebral aqueduct of the Sylvius present in the midbrain. So the lateral ventricle is the cavity of cerebral hemisphere. It is a sheath-shaped structure with three horns and central part, as I told you. Then anterior horn is in the frontal lobe. Then this is anterior horn. Then posterior horn is in the occipital lobe. Then inferior horn is in the temporal lobe. This is the central part. Between the anterior and posterior horn, this is the central part present in the parietal lobe. So this is a superior view of ventricular system of the lateral ventricle. So anterior horn in the frontal lobe, then posterior horn in the occipital lobe, and inferior horn in the temporal lobe. So body in the parietal lobe. Inferior and posterior horns are connected in the trigone, that is present in the occipital lobe of the cerebral hemisphere. So this again, there's whatever present in the specimen. You can see this anterior horn in the frontal lobe. This is central part, and this is the posterior horn in the occipital lobe, and inferior horn in the temporal lobe. So on the boundaries, I don't think it is much important, just I'll leave it out. So anterior horn again, it has got roof, floor, then anterior and post medial boundary and lateral boundaries. So these are the boundaries of anterior horn. So roof, you have what you call as corpus callosum, then floor also is formed by corpus callosum. Then medially you have got one thin connective tissue what you call septum pellucidum, and laterally you have head of caudate nucleus, which is nothing but the part of basal ganglia. So this is the anterior horn present in the frontal lobe cavity. Then coming to the body or central part, so lies in the parietal lobe. Again, it has got roof formed by corpus callosum. Then the floor is formed by mainly body of caudate nucleus and upper surface of thalamus, and then choroid plexus, body of fornix, and medial wall by septum pellucidum, and lateral wall by narrow area at the meeting of roof and floor. Then you have posterior horn. So posterior horn present in the occipital lobe, roof. It mainly forms a roof, lateral wall and floor. And then formed by tapetum of corpus callosum. Medially, there are two elevations. Then what is bulb of posterior horn formed by forceps major. Then you have the inferior horn present in the temporal lobe. So it has got again roof on the tapetum, nothing but what is tapetum is nothing but fibers of corpus callosum. Then floor is mainly formed by hippocampus. The lateral wall is formed by corpus callosum. So these were the parts of the lateral ventricle and its boundaries of each of these parts. Now coming to the third ventricle. So this is the third ventricle. It's a very thin slit-like cavity. So the lateral ventricle connects to third ventricle with the foramen of Monro. So it's narrow slit-like cavity whose lateral wall is formed by thalamus and hypothalamus on either side. At the rostral margin of midbrain, the cerebral aqueduct opens into the third ventricle. So the roof of the third ventricle is formed by the what we call as ependyma. There's nothing but the lining of the CSF where the choroid plexus are present. This forms the roof in the thalamus. Then in the rostral part of third ventricle, this interventricular foramen, which is located between the column of Phoenix and anterior pole of thalamus. So this is the interventricular foramen of Monro, this area. Coming to topographical anatomy, so third ventricle is in midline slit-like cavity. So lateral walls of third ventricle is formed by thalamus and hypothalamus on either side, and caudally the third ventricle becomes continuous with the cerebral aqueduct. So the arrow is indicating the third ventricle continuing as cerebral aqueduct, which is present in the midbrain. I hope you have understood this part. Then the interventricular foramen provides communication on either side with the extensive lateral ventricle located within the cerebral hemisphere. Now coming to the fourth ventricle. When the fourth ventricle can be asked a short notes question. So where is this fourth ventricle? It's a rhomboid shaped fossa between the pons and medulla, and posteriorly you find this cerebellum forming the roof. So it's a cavity of iron brain situated in the front of cerebellum and behind the pons and behind the upper of medulla oblongata. So this is the image showing the fourth ventricle. This area is a fourth ventricle. So what are the parts of fourth ventricle? Mainly of the roof, then you have the floor, the lateral boundaries and four angles here. So what are the lateral boundaries? You have the upper part and lower part. Upper part is superior peduncle, the middle peduncle, then lower part you have the inferior peduncle, then fasciculus cuneatus and fasciculus gracilis. So this image rhomboid fossa, this same thing is present in the floor of the fourth ventricle. So you have this median sulcus, then sulcus limitans, this elevation called as median eminence, and white matter called as stria medullaris. As I told you yesterday in the pons, when you take a section, you could make out this vestibular area. So this is the pons and this is the medulla. Then facial folliculus is nothing but facial nerve winding around the abducens nerve nucleus. Then you have the locus coeruleus, it's a bluish color area, rich in neurotransmitter. Then in the lower part, that is the medulla, you find hypoglossal triangle, then vagal triangle, and the area posterior, which is the most inferior part, the cone-shaped structure, which functions as vomiting center. So same thing you can see in the floor with the median sulcus. So then sulcus limitans, then stria medullaris, the vestibular area here, then the facial folliculus, this is facial folliculus, and when you come to the medulla, this is vagal triangle, hypoglossal triangle area post. So these are the features in the fourth ventricle, floor of the fourth ventricle. So this schematic diagram here, same thing. It's a median sulcus here, then sulcus limitans, this sulcus limitans, then stria medullaris. So you have the spatial colliculus, vestibular area, very important in the upper part, and lower part, vagal triangle and hypoglossal triangle along with the area postuma. So what are the structures? In the upper half, you have the upper-cent nucleus surrounded by the internal region of facial nerve forming the facial colliculus. Then you have the vestibular area, and in inferior half you also find the vestibular area along with the vagal triangle, hypoglossal triangle, and the vomiting center, that is the area postuma, along with the vital center, that is cardiac and respiratory center of the medulla. So this is a dorsal wall. Dorsal wall is the upper portion of roof with the superior peduncle and superior medullary velum, and lower portion is inferior medullary velum. So this forms the roof here. So in the roof you find this choroid plexus, like in a T-shaped manner, and this is communicated to the subarachnoid space through what we call as foramen of Lashka on either side and foramen of Magendie in the middle. So these are the recesses, lateral recess, and dorsomedian recess and dorsolateral recess. So the three openings, median and two lateral. Median aperture is called foramen of Magendie. Lateral aperture is called as foramen of Lashka. By means of these three openings, the ventricle communicates with the subarachnoid cavity. So what are the angles? They are superior angle, then inferior angle, and two lateral angles. So choroid plexus are nothing but highly vascular reflections of pili choroidea. They are the one which produces the CSF and present mainly in the lateral ventricle, and in the fourth ventricle it is present in a T-shaped manner. So the applied aspect of this lateral ventricle is, if there is a communication block between lateral and third ventricle, it causes accumulation of CSF, in turn leading to the hydrocephalus. So we investigate by injecting a dye called and the procedure is called as ventriculography to note the block. Thank you. So this is about the today's session about the thalamus as well as the ventricles of brain.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I got a doubt. Yeah. Can you explain the choroid plexus a little bit in detail?
So the choroid plexus are nothing but the plexus of capillaries, and the cells are the ependymal cells. They are involved in production of CSF. So they are present in the lateral ventricle as well as the fourth ventricle. In the fourth ventricle, they are present in a T-shaped manner with the horizontal limb and the vertical limb like this.
Ma'am, can you explain the rhomboid fossa, fourth ventricle?
Yeah.
Maybe I think they are confused with the shape of that.
That's why put this image is very simple. So the floor of fourth ventricle resembles rhomboid fossa. So what are the parts of that is the median sulcus divided into right and left half. Then your sulcus limitans. In the upper part you find vestibular area with the facial colliculus. In the lower part important thing is hypoglossal triangle, vagal triangle, and with the area postuma. So omitting center. That's what is the same thing. It's present in the floor of fourth ventricle. This is a rhomboid fossa.
Ma'am, one more doubt. Whether choroid plexus is present completely on every ventricles, or are they concentrated on any others?
Lateral and fourth ventricle. Is anything else?
Are there any other Any doubts? Ma'am, would you repeat third ventricle and connection of intralaminar nuclei?
So this is a third ventricle, slit-like cavity. Um, this third ventricle mainly the boundaries is formed by thalamus and hypothalamus. It's a lateral boundary. Okay, and this third ventricle continues with the cerebral aqueduct, which is present in the midbrain. This is the third ventricle. Coming to the important nuclei of the thalamus. This, if you remember, is very important. So the thalamus divided into three groups of nuclei: anterior group, then medial group, and lateral group. Again, lateral group into ventromedial, ventrolateral, ventroposterior, ventroposterolateral. Okay. You just remember the anterior group nuclei will be connected to the limbic system, medial group to the frontal lobe, then the ventromedial and ventroposterolateral to the cerebral cortex, then cerebellum. In the most posterior part to the general sensory input, the 312 area function area. Then the pulvinar part of the thalamus, which has got two bodies, a lateral geniculate body and medial geniculate body. Lateral geniculate body is related to the visual cortex and medial geniculate body to the auditory cortex. So this is the important nuclei divisions as well as the connections of the thalamus nuclei.
मैम एक डाउट आया है.
हाँ.
Is there any functional value of medial wall of lateral ventricle?
Medial wall. Medial wall is very formed by caudate nucleus and it is a basal ganglia. Of course, it has got motor activity. It is coordinates the motor function.
Ma'am, you mentioned about septum pellucidum.
Yes.
Anatomically, it is only a membrane that separates the anterior horn of two lateral ventricles. Are there any functional or physiological aspect of septum pellucidum, ma'am?
Exactly, it involves in the limbic system. That's all. Not exact function is known about it.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, can you explain connection of reticular thalamic nucleus?
So reticular thalamic nucleus actually there's a separate reticular tract or you should reticular formation you study in physiology. So what are the connections related to thalamus is afferents. So afferents the nucleus is thought to receive collateral branches of corticothalamic, thalamocortical and probably thalamostriatal branches from the cortex and additional branches from the midbrain. So efferent fibers is to the efferent fibers from the reticular nucleus pass into the body of thalamus and we are mainly GABAergic. GABAergic means from the neurotransmitter. GABA is a neurotransmitter. What is the main function of reticular? Is reticular nucleus believed to function in getting information related to the thalamus. In mainly it helps in the sleep-wake cycle, arousal cycle, being conscious. That is controlled by reticular formation. In simple way, I have explained it's very complicated tracks related to the reticular formation.
Ma'am, yesterday you told that diencephalon functions as a relay station.
Pardon?
So
No?
yesterday you explained the diencephalon functions as a relay station.
See, diencephalon again they divide the thalamus and hypothalamus, epithalamus, all those things. Only the thalamus is concerned with the relay station. Whatever the motor and sensory, they relay in the thalamus, then they go to the either to the cerebral cortex or to the brainstem and spinal cord.
So is it like thalamus is deciding what has to be given, or how motor and sensory informations are being?
It indicates the either sensory or motor function.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, another doubt. Can you explain the relation of third ventricle with thalamus?
So the lateral walls of third ventricle is formed by thalamus and hypothalamus. So this is slit cavity. So once you open up only you can make out this cavity, isn't it? Otherwise you cannot make out. So the lateral wall is formed by thalamus and hypothalamus to the that boundary is formed by the thalamus and hypothalamus to the third ventricle. That is a relation.
Ma'am, personally, I have a doubt. There is an interthalamic adhesion.
Yeah,
So is it passing through the third ventricle, or?
that is above it. This is a cavity here. This is an interthalamic adhesion.
So interthalamic adhesion are superior to the third ventricle.
Yeah, yeah, it is above that. This is a cavity and this is the thalamic adhesion. You can make up this now. That is
Yeah,
adhesion.
yeah. Are there any other doubts? One more doubt came, ma'am.
Have they, have they filled up that Google form?
Yeah, I have circulated it, and they'll be submitting it, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes?
Ma'am, what is the difference between why certain areas are actually called as nuclei?
Nuclear nothing but grey matter. Grey matter they call as nuclei in the cortex. And white matter as fibers. That is the main organization of internal system that I told the first class. So it's grey matter and white matter. Either it may be in the spinal cord or it may be in the brain.
Any other doubts? Ma'am, I hope there are no further doubts.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hope we can wind up the session for today.
Okay.
Yeah. So with your permission, I'm
Yeah, sure.
winding it up.
Tomorrow also, I think after 12 o'clock only you can schedule. I
Yeah.
have
Okay.
11 o'clock.
Okay, ma'am. By 12 o'clock, we'll start the class tomorrow also.
Okay, fine. Tomorrow is the
Okay.
last session.
Yeah,
So
ma'am.
we're taking about the white matter of the cerebrum.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Fine.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much for your time.